Welcome back to the Fairmont build here. Like I said last video, we're going to be attacking the fuel system and the subframe connectors and some rear end bracing. So I already went ahead and pulled the fuel lines out here, and in the trunk here I went ahead and pulled the fuel cell out. So back here it's getting pretty stripped, and I pulled all the lines off. I'm going to be cutting all those tabs off where the feed and return were, but pulled the transmission crossmember out. And you can kind of see where the subframe connectors are going to be running from there all the way to back here on the torque box, so the car doesn't fold in half when we put a bunch of power at it. And then up top we're going to be bracing this area, and down here where the bolt runs through, we're going to be bracing that area too with some new parts. And what we're going to be bracing it with is this kit from BMR. And I looked at a lot of different kits and I really like theirs. It's 250 bucks. This goes on the frame rail into the top mount, and this bar ties the two together, the two top mounts together, and then this will go on the bottom to hold that bottom suspension bolt hole. So brace it up, goes through the floor. Obviously we're going to get into more detail with that, but I really like the kit, so I went ahead and got that. Some more fuel line stuff. I got some Holley sniper rails. These have the slash cut on them for a stock intake manifold, whereas these are straight, and these are for aftermarket rails or intakes only. So live and learn there a little bit. This is Dash 8 stuff, Dash 8 crossover, so my fuel pressure regulators got Dash 8 fittings on it too, so that'll work good. Still waiting on some more fittings, but this is just some expensive push lock stuff. So long to go with all the fuel stuff. We had a Dash 8 return welded on here. This is just one of them cheap fuel tanks that has the Dash 10 up top and the Dash 10 down here. So I'll just move these caps back up there, return here, and then the dual 2 fuel pump feed over to the side. So we're gonna go ahead and get these subframe connectors fabricated and welded onto the car, and then I'm going to start putting these braces in here, so get it close when we have it kind of all mocked up here. So outside here, as far as the subframe connectors go, I have this 2x2 by 1/8 inch square stock, and you can see it needs a slight curve, so this is kind of what I came up with. Just through the tow hooks and the jack, it seems to be working pretty good. Kind of a janky way to do it, but it puts a really good arc on it, and hopefully that should be enough. If not, I'll just come back out here and put a little bit more into it, but I'm gonna do that. It's already got a slash cut here. I'm gonna cut it over there, and should be pretty much good to go. Alright, so this is what we got going on here. Got the subframe connector all mocked up, and then I got all these plates cut out. I have like these 11-inch ones we're gonna weld up in here, but it's all prepped out and everything. So I'm gonna go ahead and tack this all up, get all these little gussets on, and show you how they look on both sides. I don't think I'm gonna cap the ends or anything like that, because I'm gonna run the fuel lines through here. I'll just make it a lot easier if I do that. So there it is though. It's just got a slight arch in it. Right about there it's bent, and then it's gonna get welded in the back there. So got these connectors all welded up. So looking pretty good. Made a new transmission crossmember. Just have some angle iron and same 2x2 there. So that worked out good. Kind of tied it into the floor here. Plated it on this side of the torque box, and then plated it on that side of the torque box. So that should tie everything in pretty good. So to explain a little bit more on this BMR lower controller arm mount, that hole right there is going to go where the suspension bolt hole goes. So pretty much this mount can sneak up in there after you prep it and everything, and stick it there. It's a bolt together deal. These 4 bolt holes go through the floor pan, and it has a plate on the back side. But I'm going to end up prepping the edges on the bottom here at least, and welding the bottom here, so it kind of ties it in a little bit better. And then as far as the upper mounts go, back here at the 8.8, these upper mounts this will tie into there. So it has an extended bolt, and then these kind of saddle the frame rail. You can drill and mount them. So I really like this design. That's why I went with the BMR kit. It has that, and then it has on the other side of the bolt head, it has a bar that ties in both tops together. And I really like that. So other kits, they have some pieces that kind of go around the back side of here and go through the floor and tie it, like kind of pinch it together, but I didn't really like that as much because of the this is still not really braced at all. It's still the same sheet metal size pulling away from the body. So I really like this tubular kit some more, so we're gonna get this mounted up. Might have to cut some of this old stuff out or whatever, but get that out of the way and start seeing how it looks. Alright, so back here this shows how the kit goes in, and we had to fight it a little bit. We getting the kit in, getting these bolts in particular, kind of gets into the frame rail, get them to line up, but eventually we got them, drilled out the holes for these, and really like them. They work pretty good. These bars kind of get up in here, so I don't know, like anything, you kind of got to modify them to fit, but that bar goes in there and ties it all in. So working on the front mount now, but I'll show you the issue with that. So the issue with that is where it goes up in the torque box, and the bolt is supposed to go through into the control arm. For whatever reason, maybe because this is a Fairmont floor versus a Mustang floor, I don't really think that would be the difference, but this hole is way too low. This is actually where it should be. That's how far off it is, almost like a full hole width, I guess. And the hole is a little too big for grab us this, the stock bolt. So you can't really brace much when it's that loose. So what ended up I'm doing here is I drilled out a little bit until it might get into the original hole, and then I filled it all in with weld. So I'm gonna punch this one out now. I still gotta obviously do this one, but that's about how much they're off. So we just gotta pretty much re-drill them to the right size, and then they should be able to go in and pinch the floor good. So a better shot, you can see the lower control arm mount. Got the plate in there where it kind of goes through the floor. That all lined up good, and just drilled the holes and squashed the plate down on the floor and ripped the sound deadening out. That was pretty easy. But all in all, the BMR kit was it was alright. I don't know, I'll give it like a 5 or 6 out of 10 because I had to modify something that I don't think I really should have, but it's whatever. I think it's going to brace it and really help this thing out a lot more, and along with the subframe connectors, it'll work pretty good. So went ahead and threw the rear seat back in, and then down here slathered some paint all over the subframe connectors and transmission crossmember. So that's setting up right now. And towards the back of the car, I put the fuel cell back in and plumbed it all up. So I added the second fuel pump up there and the new fuel filters. These are PQY 100 micron filters. So it's just got 2 -10 coming out of this cheap fuel cell that goes into there, and obviously right into 2 AEM 380 fuel pumps, and then 2 my pre-existing lines, which were the 2 -6s. They used to be feed and return. Now they're just both feed, and then added this -8 return that just goes right into the side that got welded in there, and then hung it all up with these P-clamps, which works out pretty good in the pre-existing brackets I made for the -6, and then it runs into the subframe connector, and I'll wrap that up where it's kind of sharp around the edges. We can see where it comes out front, where it's got the excess hose there, but then it'll come up to the engine bay. But that looks pretty good there, just kind of pretty simple, and a lot of fuel going up front. So under the hood here, I'll go over the fuel system really quick. It's running Holley Sniper billet rails. These are for a LS3 kit, but it just has custom injector hold downs that I made. They're pretty much just angle iron. That's just bent a little bit, but I drilled and tapped the one, sent the Allen screw through, and it holds it pretty good. So that was pretty simple. It's using a PQI fuel pressure regulator that's boost referenced, stock holley that comes with the rails, crossover tube, both AAN in, and then it's adapted to a AAN out that just barely clears everything. It's got a low dollar motorsports fuel pressure regulator that also just barely clears the throttle bracket, so that works good. Over here, I'll show you the rails, just barely clear. Once you notch the alternator, it just barely clears, but just a little plastic cover, just notch that and it'll clear fine. But this is a pretty simple setup. Like I said, I have two pumps in the back. Those are 6AN feeding both rails, each pump, each rail. As you can see, one's blue, one's black. That's a 6AN to 8AN adapter back there. So pretty simple setup here. And the injectors I just got, these are Snake Eater Performance 1500s. And I have my adapter harnesses. I'll probably join these together later. But just got those in, made the hold downs, got this finalized. And pretty simple. I'll show you the flex fuel under the car. So right next to the bell housing we have the flex fuel sensor. Pretty standard setups. Got these AAN quick connects and push lock fittings. Those are thread and quick connects, so don't really have to worry about the plastic clips. But just mounted it to the floor in the return line, heading back to the tank, and just gotta wire it up. I'll wire it up later, but pretty simple setup. So up under the dash, just got these new fuse box in. I use this kind of marine style. That one just wasn't enough. Running back here, rewired everything. So fuel pump trigger wire is wired to both 4-wire relays here, and then I got these power and ground wires running from the fuel pumps down up underneath. But both run over here, kind of keep it short, keep them in the back. Both come on, like I said, both run at the same time. So the only thing I'm worried about is, you know, possibly having a heating the fuel up, but I don't really think that's going to be a big deal. We'll just keep an eye on that, and if so, then I'll just stagger the pumps. But we'll do it like that for now, and go ahead and reflash Holley here, put a new update on there. But other than that, we're pretty much done with this video. Next video, I'm going to be showing this thing running and driving, and we're going to have to do some other stuff like the map sensor and boost control and stuff like that, but just going to be getting used to Holley. So I'm going to flash the firmware on this thing, but next video, maybe burnouts. We'll see. Thanks for watching.